Welcome to episode number 195 of the Life Changing Questions podcast. Today we have Julian Khursigara. Julian is the co-owner of the buyer's agency Search Party Property, which focuses on data-led tailored property investment strategies across Australia. Julian is a property investment professional of Australia, a PIPA member. He's worked for 20 years as a senior executive in the customer experience and loyalty marketing sector across Europe and Asia Pacific. His passion for customer service and data analytics created the perfect storm for him to enter this passion to open the doors for all property investors across Australia. So Julian, welcome to the call today.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. Thanks for the intro.
Julian, please tell us about Search Party Property and what it is that you do there for your customers.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. We're a buyer's agency or a buyer's advocate, otherwise known as, and we predominantly focus on creating strategy, executing and sourcing investment property, and obviously then managing the entire process and ongoing process of our client's portfolio. And we do that. We're head office in Sydney. We do that across Australia in the key investment areas that we want to buy in.
And I wonder if you could tell us about the property market right now. We hear all sorts of news in the paper about new looming recessions and potential, property price reductions. We look to China and see what's happened there with their major developers. So, is now a good time for people to be considering investment properties, or is it a risk?
Yeah, it's a good question. I guess, potentially loaded for my answer, but if I go by numbers and what we're seeing, we've just had the busiest month in the history of the business in August. And a lot of that's come out, in my opinion, is just a confidence in the market. So we've had, 10 months of back-to-back interest rate charges, which has really added a lot of fear into the market. The press love that. And so they increase that fear-mongering in the press because that's great for selling papers and clicking headlines. And then we've had 3 months of no increases. We've also had 4 months of the key cities in Australia showing positive increase in housing prices. So I think adding all that together, we talk about the dip in the market. So, we've went up in 2021, we've come back down in that 2022 period and now heading a little bit back up. So that's kind of the dip where your stockbroker would recommend to buy in the dip. And I think in property, we tend to move more when the papers tell us to move, which is the fear of missing out in the peak of the market. But we're seeing investors. So the key thing is having access to finance and then taking action now, and that's what we're seeing happening with a lot of our clients.
And tell us about that, because access to finance can be a challenge, and with the interest rates, increasing, and then there's of course that additional affordability percentage on top of that. It can be tricky for some investors to get access to more funds. So, do you have the ability or any tips or tricks to help with that, or your focus more so on once they have the funds, how they can maximize their return?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, we kind of talk about an acronym which is called turning on your tap, TAP. So T meaning build your team of experts. So, making sure you've got a investment savvy accountant, someone who actually understands how to build a property portfolio. A lot of people talk about, I need to get a trust account set up. Do you? Are you in a litigious industry that needs a trust? So there's reasons why we want to have a great team behind us. And that includes a conveyancer. Obviously, if you want to set up a self-managed super fund, you need a good tax accountant and potentially financial planner as well. And, then you've got that team, potentially a buyer's agent part of that team. The A is obviously taking action. So now you've built that team, you've prepared yourself financially for to get that loan. So you've reduced your credit card spend. If you've got excess cards, get rid of them. You don't need them. Making sure you've got the pay slips in place, you've paid off your tax bills, all these little tricks that people sometimes miss, and then take action, either buy a property or use a buyer's agent to help you buy that property. And then the P is having patience. The property market isn't like cryptocurrency where you can make money overnight, literally. It's about having patience. And, over 5, 10, 20-year periods is what we focus on with our clients with their portfolio mapping systems and the programs we put in place and the plans. Have patience, and things do work out in property. And we've seen that over 30-year portfolios.
And it's a long-term time horizon from that perspective. And so TAP, get a good team in place, take some action, and then have patience. From that perspective, the kind of clients that you work with, do they end up stopping at buying 1 or 2 properties through you, or do they end up building big portfolios?
Yeah, the average Australian, I think it's 80% of Australians only buy 1 property. And there's probably a few reasons. That one is not having access to, as you said, finance. It could be buying the first property and getting it really wrong. So maybe buying a high-rise apartment from a spruiker, as we call them in our industry, or buying maybe a house and land package in an area that's going to take 20 years to build out. So there's no too much supply, not enough demand. And so they do tend to, they get a little bit paranoid, and they say, no, I can't trust anyone or anything, and I'm just going to stop at one. And that's the majority of Australian investors. What we found is using, we're talking about the mindset as much as just property. So, getting the finance right, because it's a game of finance really, as opposed to a game of property. So we keep your finance right, working with our, we're not mortgage brokers, but with our mortgage broking partners. That keeps you in train, setting up a plan and a strategy. So hoping you're going to retire early, whatever it might be, is not going to get you there. You have to have that plan in place. And so we're very much around that and spending a lot of time around questioning their plans and their strategies and their goals to get you to that end degree. And we've seen, 70% of our clients have 2 or more properties. We've got clients with, I think, a couple of there got over 10 properties now. And we've seen, and it kind of goes in peaks and troughs. So we had a big buying spree in that 2021 period. Some of our clients bought 3 or 4 properties in that 1 year, because they had access to funds. They made money very quickly when that market really took off. We had 30% increases in key capital cities that we were buying in. And then you break it down to the suburb level, which is the data we're looking at, and we're increasing even higher. So that was a really good time. And then you have a bit of a lull period, because you can't always get access to money. And so you have that lull, and then they might go again once they have access to funds again.
Tell me about those the 2 different options there, because you alluded to the fact that some people can go down the route of a house and land package, and you mentioned there are companies that will spruik these things. They will tell you these suburbs are going to grow, etc. Whereas you, as the buyer's agent, you aren't necessarily selling these house and land packages. You're going and finding existing properties and then helping people make the right choice for them.
Yeah, exactly right. I'm not against house and land packages. I've built many of myself with my wife, but we do that. But we buy in more infill blocks. We might see a block of 3 blocks getting split up. We might buy one of those blocks and put a brand new house on there for a client close to the city. So that's a higher budget. But yeah, predominantly, again, 95% of our clients we're buying established properties. Good owner occupier appeal, good areas, transportation, and a lot of that comes from a data analytical point of view. So the 3 tiers that we're looking at is the key subscription data that we spend thousands of dollars on subscribing to over the years, tens of thousands of dollars every year on key data sources that we subscribe to. Then there's some free data we can get from the ABS government, census. This is a great source. So I can look at the type of people living in the areas, where are they from, what's education levels, what are they earning. That helps me get a feel for the area, helps me understand potentially of the ripple effect. So if we've got some people coming into an area, we can get the ripple effect of growth in the future. So we may not buy in the area that's really booming right now, we can't afford it. We buy 1 or 2 suburbs out, and we're going to get the ripple effect in time. And the third part is just having people on the ground. So, we've been doing this for a long time. We're buying hundreds of properties a year. We know the agents, we know the areas. We're getting a lot of pre-market or off-market deals, and actually being boots on the ground, knowing the agents and knowing the markets, the streets where we're buying in. That really gives us, I think, that advantage to a lot of other buyers agents in the country.
I love that. Access to pre-market or off-market deals. Sounds like you can get some better value for your customers. I have another question for you on this. Let's be a little bit more, I'm going a little bit more detailed on this. So if someone's in that position and considering between a house and land package or buying, existing property, I guess there's pros and cons for both. I mean, you think about the house and land package, particularly it's going to be a new property. So you're going to get the value of depreciation. Maybe if there's any issues with the building is newly built, so that would be on the builder's side, versus the existing property, I guess, potentially older, potentially more maintenance costs. Now, if 95% of your customers are buying existing properties, you clearly have a strong reason for that. So what's the advantage of an existing property over one of these house and land packages?
Yeah, and it's a good question, and they both have their pros and cons. So we're not anti that, but I guess it goes back to that first word I mentioned, was a strategy. So what is the plan and the strategy for each client? Because they're all different. So we don't say everyone must buy a house and land package, everyone must buy an established property. But in general terms, we find buying good quality properties in good established areas with transport nodes, education, schools, access, potential growth where governments are spending money on infrastructure, we find that is where growth appears. And because some clients aren't really after growth, they may be after cash flow. So if I've got a client, we have doctors, we have dentists, they don't need cash flow. they're making lots of money. They'll never be short of cash, and their jobs are secured for life. So for them, we're looking at more higher purchase, higher price properties in more capital growth areas because they're looking to expand their portfolios quickly. They then may transition what we find a little bit more confidence in the market, and we might start looking for development opportunities. So we might land bank, we might buy bigger blocks of land and cut it up for them later. But someone who's on the average wage, on the average Australian investor, there's this myth out there that we're all billionaires because we own properties. It's not the case. It's really hard work for most investors, and so when interest rates go up, it's hurt the investor market. So a lot of them will be looking for a combination of growth is really going to help them accelerate their portfolio growth. But they also need cash flow confidence to be able to, they don't want to be taking out $200 a week out of their back pockets, a lot of money for them to make up that negative gearing aspect, which has always been bandied around, which is great if you're on a high taxable income. So that helped me a lot when I was in the corporate world, but it doesn't help the average investor.
Yeah, I've never really fully grasped the negative gearing concept because it's like you have to lose money to save on tax, right? So,
yes.
So I don't fully get that. Now, of course, unless you're playing that game, you know that the property is going to increase in value in the longer term, and you're banking on the capital growth. Is there any potential or possibility in the marketplace for people to have positively geared properties if they're buying now? I guess if they bought 10, 20 years ago, yes, things have changed. But if they're buying now, is there any chance?
Yeah, I mean, there are potential. We do find opportunities. It generally means we have to move outside of the inner city hubs, or we're looking at different and higher geared type of arrangements. So co-living, there's a government initiative called the NDIS scheme, National Disability Incentive Scheme, where again, higher price properties to buy because they need to be purpose built, but there's a higher return on that investment. So, but they also come with their risks. Run by government agencies, technically not always efficient in running these type of processes of administration. So we have long periods of vacancy rates, unfortunately, in those type of properties. So as long as the client understands the risks and the positives of that, and we do a lot of work on cash flow analysis, looking at long-term, short-term and long-term analysis to make sure they're really comfortable before we get in. But they're probably the key strategies right now. So co-living, NDIS, student accommodation, or buying a little bit in more remote or regional areas. So, I mean, I know it doesn't sound regional, but we're buying a little bit in Bundaberg and Townsville and these areas in Queensland, which obviously are very big towns, but they're not close to major capital cities such as Brisbane.
Yeah, got it. That makes a heap of sense. A lot of knowledge and wisdom in there. Given your success in business, you've grown a team there. You're making a big difference to your customers. I wonder if you could give us some tips or lessons or strategies that will help the other business owners listening on how to improve their business.
Yeah, I guess a lot of it depends on where you are in the line of business, from startup phase to mature companies. For me, I went down and started really from the customer side. So coming from that customer engagement side of my career, and before that was in working in the hospitality industry, so five-star hotels where the whole world revolved around service to customer. So I, worked really hard. We built our customer engagement process and platform. We, brought in CRMs. We've mapped out the entire service levels. Surprise and delighting customers, welcome packs, welcome card, birthday cards, everything handwritten, really personalized. And even after we finished a transaction, they become raving fans because Farah, who runs that area for me, and her team, just absolutely smothering the customer with that service. So I think that's a really important part that I think sometimes people skip because they're too worried about the product and the price and sales and marketing, and which is all really, really important. And I think everyone will have a different view on which one comes first. But that's where I started, which is a good starting point. It got us a lot of repeat clients, and now we're up to 78% of our clients are repeat clients or referrals. So that's proven over a long period of time that that's really worked. Where we had to pick up was really fix up the sales process. So, we were getting a lot of leads in, but, building scripts, making sure we're understanding the client, asking the right questions, spending more time about them rather than talking about us. And maybe trying to shorten that sales process as well, trying to really be understanding, are they serious? Do they really want to invest in money? Have they got the right like you said, finance, jobs, are they prepared to work now? What's their timeline of investing? That's something we've really worked on hard in the particularly last 2 years, which really helped us boom through that 2021 period of property price. But then we've had this lull. So that was a really good time for us to refine the mechanisms of that process. And so they're probably a couple of the things that I'd really focus on for other business holders. So the customer experience and your sales process.
And sales process can be so key. There's no point if you're doing an amazing job getting a lot of leads in, because if you're not doing a good job to convert those clients, then you're wasting your marketing time and energy as well. And then
Correct.
if you're not doing a good job with good customer service, and you're not going to retain those clients, you're not going to get the referrals. Now, you said 78% of your clients come via referral, which is fantastic. Does that happen because you just take care of your clients and do an amazing job with them, or do you have an active process where you request referrals?
Yeah, I think it's a double-edged sword in that we do have a formal process of talking a referral partner process where we reach out to mortgage brokers, the likely suspects, the vertical sort of integration, mortgage brokers, financial planners, accountants, probably the 3 key areas that we get our referrals from. And a lot of that's come from us proving to them that we're good at what we do. It's that element of trust and building the trust with them. So we're very open. We don't hide where we buy. Most people we see out there will hide the suburbs they're buying in. And we're very open. We show the case studies. We show the streets. We show exactly what we're doing. And that builds confidence in them, because really the way they look at it is, if they're going to give a referral, they have to make sure they get that right. And for them, it's that confidence to know that when they refer a client to Search Party Property, that we're going to look after them and give them the same level of service they've just experienced from their accountant or their mortgage broker. Because if we succeed and they buy a successful property and a portfolio starts to build, they're going to go back to that mortgage broker and buy another property. So everyone wins in that circle economy, really.
Yeah, I love that. And so you've got a good network of alliance partners around you where you can take care of their clients and refer, your clients to them, etc. So that creates a bit of a win-win-win situation for you, for your partner, and for your customer. And from a customer experience perspective, you gave us a couple of examples there about making sure that you do handwritten cards and send them things on their birthdays, etc. If we are new to this, we've never really done anything to maximize our customer experience. We just offer the service, do an amazing job in the service. What are some of the questions we can ask ourselves, or some of the things that we can start doing today to really have more of an impact on customer experience?
Yeah, I guess one of the key ones I've learned in my career and try to pass through as a leader now in my business is just, what can we learn from situations? So it's a really simple yet sort of powerful statement. So, instead of worrying about the problem, this is what's happened, let's think about the solution. Let's start problem solving really early on in the piece. And sometimes that will start with, asking me, and what shall we do and how do we do that? But then I'll try to turn that around and put the camera back on them and say, well, what do you think we should do? And we all know 99% of the time, the employee knows exactly what to do, or they'll get it pretty close to the mark. So it's about just empowering them, seeking solutions, and that also helps with personal growth. So if they encourage their mindset, it gives them resilience, it builds their mindset, and that whole 1% growth, if we can just do that 1% every day, every week, every year, that's going to lead us into better employees, better businesses, and then obviously better people, I think, as well.
Yeah, 1% every day. You're going to get some major improvements over the course of a year, and the compounding of the 1% on the 1%. That's amazing. Hey, well, Julian, we say on the show that the quality of the questions we ask ourselves really impact the quality of our life. With that being true, I wonder, what's one question you asked that's had the biggest positive impact on your life or the life of the clients that you serve?
In terms of the clients that we serve, it's probably the Simon Sinek why. So I spend a lot of time talking and asking questions to the client, as opposed to the other way around, which is a lot of people are selling and talking about themselves. So asking them why. Why do you want to invest in property? Why? What is it trying to? Are you leaving a legacy? Is it about retirement? Is it about money? And most people, you find, don't actually haven't thought that deep. So then we'll break that down with them, and you can see them light up. You can see their eyes light up. You can see the husband and wife might look at each other, and it's actually a really powerful question to ask. Why are we doing this? How do you feel about this? What do you think about the future? And that helps us really build their trust, and it also helps us build a strategy, because that's really key for us. So yes, we could just sign them up and just keep flogging properties and finding deals for people, but we find if we offer that extra time and service, and that's before they become a client. So we're talking them in that sort of period, or sorry, that's just part of the strategy session when they are a client at this stage, is really building out. Half of that session is just talking about them and the positive question of why.
And so for your clients, when you ask them that question, why, they get really connected to the emotional reason behind this and what it's going to bring for them, what's going to do them. So no doubt they get them fired up and motivated. How was asking that question yourself made a difference to you? Because I guess if you're doing it with your clients, you're probably doing this with yourself too.
Yeah, I think it's also different times in your life when you may ask that question, and different experiences that have come about during that time. And there's probably a clincher in my time where I asked myself why, which was my mum passed away, in her early 50s, and just watching her slowly shut down. She had got motor neurone disease, so that was a really tricky time. Being a male, didn't really look for help, just tried to bottle it up, and probably went down the wrong path of trying to how to work through it. But I think after she passed and had a bit of time to settle, just asking, what's my why going to be? What am I going to do now? You can either go off one angle and say, well, woe me, but I took the other way and said, I want to make her proud and leave that legacy that she left behind for us. At that stage, I wasn't married or had kids, so I think it's definitely something where different times in your life you ask that why. When you become a father, there's probably another time you might ask that why. Probably coming to another stage now too, Kevin, where my kids are getting a few years away from finishing school. There could be another time there because I go, what's my why now? The kids have finished school. We've done all that for them. We've given them the best schooling we could afford, and private schools and things like that. So what's our why now as a husband and wife as well, or personally?
I love that. So different life stages, we ask that why, and we're going to get very different outcomes and answers. And I guess for you at this interesting stage, your children, you said 16, 18, they'll be heading out into the world soon. And I guess they won't be needing as much of mummy and daddy's time all the time. So yeah, you're going to have some very different opportunities and options ahead of you. And I'm so sorry to hear about your mum's passing, but it's so beautiful to also hear about how you use that as an opportunity to reflect and want to create a legacy, that you would be proud of, and that she would be proud of. So it's a really great example of how to use that question. Julian, you shared so much value and so much wisdom with us today. If our listeners wanted to get in contact with you, where's the best place for them to come and find you?
Yeah, we're very active on social media. So Search Party Property is our handle on Instagram, Facebook. Searchpartyproperty.com.au website, which has got a host of information in there, all free ebooks, anything people need to educate themselves on property investing. And personally, I promote on LinkedIn every day, a piece of content, again, educational content every day on LinkedIn, and that'd be LinkedIn/Julian Khursigara.
Wherever you're listening, just click into the show notes, and all of those links are there for you to just click straight through to go to Search Party Property, and of course to go to the LinkedIn profiles as well. And let me ask you about that habit, posting educational content on LinkedIn every day. Sounds like a very good ritual to do, something that probably a lot of us aspire to be able to do, something like that. How do you create that habit so that you can produce and create that content to go out every single day?
Yeah, I think it's like, a lot of books being written recently about creating habits, and the James Clears and people like that. And see, for me, it was just about, that was my target. And, it starts small as well. So it was just, maybe let's try to do 3 a week. And then I lifted that after a month or two, let's see if I can do 5 a week and one piece of content. So it's about setting those targets, and then it becomes a habit if you set it small. And then I had to be organized, had to be prepared. I had to make sure I had the content ready to go. Then I expanded that out a little bit further and got a VA, virtual assistant, to help me post that content, because I couldn't spend that time doing that myself. So you write the content, prepare the content, obviously get a creative person to help you create the content, and then got that posted. So it was really just starting small, and then going to that next step. And then, it's become over 3 years now of every day posting a piece of content. And that's, grown my followings as well to well over 10,000 followers. And again,
Amazing.
I've never sold on LinkedIn. It's always about educational content.
And do you feel as though that's yielded clients for you? Is there a return on that? You have more followers, but has it led to more leads, more conversations, and more clients?
Yeah, definitely. It's probably, it's one of our, we spend a lot of money on the Facebooks and advertising on Google, but that one, the LinkedIn activities or marketing that we do tends to bring us the type of client that's real, which makes sense. It's a professional network. So, you know, they got jobs, good incomes, and they're wanting to talk to someone professional. It's also about building trust. So they might be watching me there for a year. And then all of a sudden they'll say, hang on, we're ready to invest. Oh, who's that guy I keep seeing on LinkedIn posting all that great content that that we read? And so, yeah, it has been a very successful channel for us, and it's something I'll continue to do because it brings us really good quality prospects, and they definitely do higher chances of conversion through LinkedIn.
Love it. Really, really great. Julian, you've provided so much knowledge and wisdom, and I really appreciated the call today. Do you have any final messages you'd like to share?
Well, no, I think the message really from us is, you know, I think about planning and strategy. So we're big on planning and strategy for our clients. I think that's where we should all start with our sales process and our client journey. And then it's, you know, from there, looking after the client as far as possible with that customer experience, and then even the post-customer experience. So that never-ending journey of looking after them, building annual reports for them, and looking after their, well, in our case, their property portfolios, and other people's cases could be whatever their product is. But it's that ongoing, I guess, ambition and focus on the client.
Love that. Very clear. So make sure you're doing great things in terms of your customer experience. Give those people a really great experience, and with some effort into that, you can get 78% referral rate into your business. And the same way that Julian does, that would be fantastic. If you're looking to go into property, then you need to think about turning on your tap. So make sure you've got a great team around you, and someone like Julian and his network could be very helpful for that. Get into action, and then have the patience. And remember to be asking yourself that question: why are you doing this thing? Why is this important to you? And get really connected to that, and that will be your emotional fuel to drive you forward. So Julian, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure, Kevin. Thank you.